A.B.A has just released for Guilty Gear Strive, and she is one of the, I want to go with funkier characters in the cast. Being a full dedicated stance character who is absolutely terrible in one mode and absolutely godlike in the other, A.B.A brings an interesting and dynamic kit to the game, which is definitely going to take a while to learn how to use, but is going to be really satisfying once players get the hang of her. With one of the best DPs in the game, a system that looks like a parry system but is secretly just A.B.A in disguise, somehow simultaneously being the fastest and the slowest character in the game, and another fucking bar, we've got a lot to talk about with A.B.A. So, let's do that. Let's talk about A.B.A in Guilty Gear Strive. A.B.A originally appeared in Guilty Gear Isuka. However, most players probably know her from Plus R, a game where she has become, let's say, a little bit infamous over the past few years. A.B.A is a all-or-nothing character. She either absolutely demolishes you within the first couple of seconds of the match, or she doesn't get to play the video game. This may seem like a very strange dichotomy. How can a character be extremely powerful to the point where you don't get to do anything, and also a weak little baby who needs to be taken care of? Well, that's all thanks to her unique mechanic. This is all thanks to her jealousy meter and her jealous rage. This mode works slightly similarly to how it did in Plus R with a couple of major differences. However, this isn't a video about Plus R, so we can stop talking about it now. In Guilty Gear Strive, A.B.A has a jealousy meter. The jealousy meter starts at 50% on every new round. When hitting the opponent with any slash or heavy slash move, you begin to fill the jealousy gauge. Some special moves can also fill the jealousy gauge. As long as the bar is above 25%, A.B.A is able to go into her jealous rage. This is A.B.A's unique stance and what makes her so interesting to play. In A.B.A's normal mode, she is extremely slow, pretty weak, and not able to get a lot done with her combos. She has, arguably, the worst step dash in the game during her normal mode. Her mobility is absolutely terrible outside of a couple committal options, and most of her normals don't exactly go very far. However, once she enters her jealous rage, she becomes the tied fastest character in the game. Technically, she's the fastest, however, she has the exact same running speed as Chip, just with 0 ramp up. While she's in her jealousy rage, all of her slash and heavy slash normals change, as well as her 2D. When you enter jealousy rage, you slowly begin expending some of the jealousy meter, meaning you only have a limited amount of time until you go back to normal mode. None of your moves in jealous rage refill the jealousy gauge. However, you are able to slow down the rate at which it decreases. Anytime you hit an opponent or you get hit, the jealousy gauge pauses for a little bit, meaning you are able to do combos and not really worry about the fact that you're going to be going back into your normal mode. When the gauge runs out, A.B.A is forced back into her normal mode. However, she is able to act immediately after the animation is finished, meaning it is possible for her to leave jealousy mode and actually be in an advantageous state. Granted, being in normal mode kind of sucks, so you're not going to be in an extremely advantageous state, but there's a couple of things that you can do that can still be nice. Her normals are okay. All of her punch and kick normals stay between modes. She has a 4-frame 2P move, and her 2K actually goes pretty far. A 5H while in normal mode is a pretty big move, and it can catch opponents out if they're not really looking for it. You can also use it to get into a more advantageous position. Her 2H actually advances her forward and is a very good setup for 2 and 4H. It works slightly differently in Jealous Rage though, having 2 hits and not advancing A.B.A forward, though the 2 hits are good for combos and pressure. Her 2S is an anti-air in both modes, and I'm not entirely sure which one is better. It looks like the Jealous Rage one is better, but I don't want to commit to an answer. Her Far Slash and 5H are both heavily buffed in Jealous Rage as well, having more range and seemingly faster starter. Also, while in Jealous Rage, her Close Slash bounces the opponent into the air. It's kind of strange, but it leads to a lot of cool looking combos at least. Now that we've gone over all of A.B.A's basic things, we can go over her special moves. A lot of these change between normal and Jealous Rage, so I'll make sure to show you both versions of the move and explain the differences. Her 214H is called Bonding and Resolving. This move is a hit grab that forces A.B.A to change which mode she's in. Both versions grant a large amount of jealousy gauge on hit, and actually give her a small amount on block. Even if you're in Jealous Rage, using this move will give you back some of your jealousy gauge, meaning it's a good way to cash out and get a little bit more. When the opponent blocks the move, it's around +1 on block. I'm saying around because, well, Dustloop's fast and they've already got a lot of the frame data, but they're not quite that fast. I also had moves trade with Soul 5k afterwards, so even though it is plus on block, you could probably get better options. Her 624p is changing and swaying. This is a basic way for her to change stances without attacking. The move's actually pretty fast. It's fast enough that if you use a Roman cancel in your combos, you're able to switch which mode you're in before the opponent lands. Switching from normal mode to Jealous Rage could actually lead to a big combo on your part if you time it correctly. Her 214k is Haul and Heed. This is a linear movement option that avoids most high-hitting attacks. This move can actually be used to avoid quite a few mids as well, and gets A.B.A into a good position. This move was absolutely obnoxious in +R, and I imagine it's going to be as obnoxious here. Being able to slide under a lot of your opponent's pokes can put A.B.A in a very good situation if she gets a good read. While in Jealous Rage, this move goes a lot further, meaning you're able to get into more advantageous state. However, with how fast she runs in Jealous Rage, I imagine you're just going to use this as an avoidance tool. Her 236k is Intertwine and Tilt. While in normal mode, this is a low crushing mid that moves A.B.A forward by quite a bit. This works pretty similarly to Haul and Heed, however, instead of beating mid and high attacks, it beats low attacks. Meaning if you call your opponent out using a low, you're able to get a good counter hit combo and get into a good position. While in Jealous Rage, you don't go as far, however, the move turns into an overhead attack. And yes, it still crushes lows. In fact, this version even crushes a couple of mids. On a normal hit, this leads to a full combo, meaning it's a pretty good basic mix-up tool and a decent pressure tool. Oh yeah, it's safe on block as well. If you want something tricky while in normal mode, you can use 236k and immediately Roman cancel in order to get an instant overhead. It's not the best tool, but you can use it for a couple of fuzzy setups, and if you really want, you can get another 50-50 off of it. A 236s is Menace and Groan. This is a forward advancing strike that is safe on block. It has a low follow-up that is very negative on block, but builds a lot of jealousy. Even though it's very negative, the second hit actually gives you a lot of knockback while blocked, especially if the opponent FDs. If you're defending against A.B.A, make sure you don't FD the second hit of this, as it can be kind of awkward to punish as some characters. The Jealous Rage version of this has a much further reach. It also does more damage and causes the second hit to ground bounce. Her 214s is Frenzy and Astonishment. This is a normal only move. It is a parry attack that puts past Silius in front of A.B.A. If the opponent hits A.B.A at this point, she becomes fully invincible and gains a large amount of jealousy gain. This move is pretty risky. It takes 7 frames to come out, and A.B.A can be thrown out of it. And once A.B.A actually gets hit, she's not able to do anything until the end of the animation. So while she is fully invincible, the opponent can set up for a meat attack once A.B.A is out of the animation. However, that doesn't mean it's useless. This is easily the best way to build a lot of jealousy gauge very quickly. And if you use it against high recovery moves, you can absolutely get a punish from it. This move also beats high and low strikes, meaning if you know that your opponent is going to go for a high-low mix-up, you can basically guarantee that you're going to get the 50-50 right. This move also works against projectiles. However, if the projectile would put a on-hit effect on you, like Kai's Shock, it still applies that effect. This is a really good way for A.B.A to be able to get past a lot of zoning and longer reach characters, as she's able to parry her way through and eventually get enough jealousy gauge to just be able to sprint at them. It doesn't make the matchups good, but it's something at least. A 623H is Judgment and Sentiment. This is a jealousy rage only move, and it is a plus on block DP that can be used as combo filler and an anti-air. You may hear this move referred to as Danzai, as a very similar move exists in +R, and, well, it's basically this move. It has some differences between it and a regular DP. Instead of being frame 1 invincible, like most DPs in the game, you get a guard point property after a certain amount of frames. This could have it win trades against other reversals, but it can lose out in tight situations. Some people are also saying they're using it as an Oki tool because, well, it's plus on block, but be careful with that. It is a great pressure tool and an amazing combo filler, as well as being an absolute nuisance to fight, but it's not a DP. Don't think of it as a DP. Don't use it on Wake Up, for the love of God. And with that, we get to her supers. Her 6246H is the Laurie's Key. Key is King. This move has two different versions depending on if you're in Jealous Rage or normal mode. In normal mode, it has one singular hit, causes you to build some jealousy gauge, and puts you into Jealous Rage. In Jealous Rage, the move expends all of your jealousy gauge and deals damage based on how much gauge is spent. It has up to 4 hits and could do about 190 damage if you get all of the gauge. Once it expands all the gauge, it returns A.B.A back to normal. This move is technically A.B.A's only reversal, and it can be very good if you want to absolutely cash out on a combo, or you want a nice way to break the wall and get into Jealous Rage. You need to be careful though. Since the move expends all of your jealousy meter, you might find yourself in a situation where you cash out all of your meter, and then you're left high and dry in normal mode with no jealousy gauge, meaning you gotta find a way to get it all back. It's a very good move, but be careful when you use it. Her 6246K is Keeper of the Key. A.B.A slams her key into the ground and summons a giant projectile beneath the opponent. This projectile is pretty good. It tracks where the opponent is and has a pretty large radius, meaning that they're not going to get out of it very easily. It's also pretty fast. If you see your opponent is spamming projectiles, if you see that your opponent is using projectiles from very far away, you can actually use it to punish them. When you're in Jealous Rage, this move hits 2 additional times, giving it 3 hits. It also becomes plus on block, meaning that you can use it for pressure if you really want to. A very versatile super, but one that you're going to have to use in specific situations. While I do think having a lot of plus friends is very good, and beating fireballs is very good, a lot of the time you'd probably rather just want to use it on a Roman cancel, or maybe even your other super if you want to cash out. I'm sure there's a lot that you can do with this super, however, it's going to take a while for people to figure out its true potential, I think. A.B.A is a very interesting character for Guilty Gear Strive. She's always been a pretty funky character, even in terms of Guilty Gear, but having a character that absolutely sucks and then becomes really good is something that's quite new for Strive, at least. If you want to play A.B.A, you gotta be okay with not being good at the start. You're gonna have to get a couple of good reads, or you're gonna have to find major flaws in your opponent's game plan. You're gonna have to sit back and play defensive for a little bit. You start out with 50 jealousy gauge, however, that's not gonna go very far in some matchups. All A.B.A needs, though, is one good hit or one good read. Once she gets that, she can absolutely run train on the opponent. Being extremely fast, very push on block, and actually able to block when she fucking dashes means that she's able to get a foothold in a lot of good matchups and terrify the opponent. If you get good at conditioning the opponent in normal mode, you'll be able to get into your Jealous Rage very easily. And once you do that, well, you've already seen the Twitter clips, let's be real. Jealous Rage A.B.A does a lot of damage and is very scary. She's not going to be a character for everyone, but for the people who do like her, I think she's going to be a great breath of fresh air. As for me, I preferred it when she was Ginger, honestly. If you want to see some very early gameplay of the character, I'm streaming right now. We're playing Tower, and I'm probably going to get my ass kicked, but it's going to be a good time. And also, if you miss it, I got a second channel. It's right there. It's got like the highlights and stuff of the matches that I played. Very cool, very fun. You should go check it out. Thank you all for watching. I hope you understand a little bit more about how A.B.A plays, and I hope you go and enjoy some Guilty Gear Strive. Have a good week, everyone. As always, a very special thanks to 64MHz, Almost Nap Time, Ben from Canada, Cervantes de Leon, Daniel Wiedericht, Edison Lottery, Fexo, Games.png, I Am Naoto, It's Riley, Knife and Spoon, Critty Cat, MP04, Mr. Clen, Ray W, Sergeant Cubby, Super, Falcon, Tom Tanks, Velvet Puppy, Volta, and Zarndatsu for being Tier 2 Patreon supporters.